As severe weather conditions sweep the globe, this question is raised time and time again. Can these patterns be attributed to climate change? To discuss this, Tyson Slocum joins us. He's a longtime energy analyst and director of Public Citizens Energy Program. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
Extreme temperatures, we've been talking about this every time you come on. Floods in India, as we just saw, there was a massive typhoon lingering, heading toward Asia. Can we thank climate change for all of this?
Unfortunately, yes. All the models that have been put together by climate scientists, particularly at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, have all predicted these extreme weather patterns. And what we're seeing across the globe is an increase in the severity and frequency of these what's known as extreme weather events. And so drier areas are becoming drier and hotter. Wetter areas are becoming even more wet, and we're going to continue to see these types of extreme weather events amplify in the years to come.
We just saw the U.S. president the day before announce new cutbacks. We're seeing more initiatives from China, from Brazil. Do you think we can see any more significant commitments around the world before we head into the climate change summit in Paris in December?
I do. I mean, what the negotiators are going to be looking to do is to establish a slowing of the warming trend. The scientists at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said that if we act within the next couple of years, we can probably stop the global warming trend at about 2 degrees centigrade over pre-industrial levels. And so that, from what we're hearing, is the internal target that negotiators from the Chinese and American and other delegations are using to try and set goals that these nations are going to establish to cut back or curtail their emissions, to comply with this level that the scientists have said that we need to.
So if we see these cutbacks, how long before we do not see some of the extreme conditions that we're experiencing around the world? What will it take before we notice a difference in the temperatures and the severity of what we're seeing?
Well, that's very difficult to predict. I mean, you know, global climate change isn't something that can just stop on a dime. It's something that took us decades and decades to get to this point, and it's going to take decades and decades to start to see additional changes. But the fact of the matter is that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and their scientists have said that there is hope for changing these terrible outcomes. And I see that there is some political will among a lot of the nations involved to establish these standards. We're also seeing more and more corporations urge their member governments to take action on climate change, because a lot of these multinationals have operations that are affected throughout their supply chain by these extreme weather events, just as a lot of individuals and communities have been.
I want to ask you about reports of a triple threat regarding climate change, the greater risk of flooding in the coming decades because of a combination of sea level risk, storm surge, heavy rainfall. We're seeing stories in the media about major coastal cities along the western coast of the U.S., for example, being underwater one day soon.
I don't know if it's going to be soon, but there's no question that there are many different outcomes of rising global temperatures. One of them is global sea rise, and we have seen already a sea rise occur throughout the world. It's going to take an awful long time for major populated cities on certain coasts to be flooded. But what we do see is that storm surges during these extreme weather events are increasing the rate of flooding for a lot of these communities. So I do think that we have time before some of the big catastrophic predictions of catastrophes related to climate change. But again, the science is very clear. If we start to act within the next couple of years, we can slow that warming trend to about 2 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels by the year 2100. And that's the target that negotiators are going to be working with during the Paris meetings.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but we know that it means a lot. Tyson Slocum, thank you so much as always. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.